Shabbos to everybody. Just want to share some thoughts from the parsha this week, Vayakel, Pikudei, when the Mishkan was finally erected, everything was done, and it was only done through the generosity of everybody, all the children of Israel who brought forth the money, not just the money, but of their time and of their expertise, the weaving, the building, the donating of the gold, the silver, the copper, the materials. It was a communal effort. And the Torah makes it sound very, very wonderful. Everybody gave of their time, everyone gave of their money, to the extent that Moshe Rabbeinu had to say, stop, enough! We've got enough funds. No, they're not going to do one of these bonus rounds in the campaign. We've got enough, no more. And it sounds very, very wonderful. Yet the Medrash, which always fills in the gaps, what the Torah, details that the Torah will miss out from, which is transmitted orally from Moshe Rabbeinu through the generations, or through hints and clues from the terminology that the Torah uses. The Medrash gives a very different account, and it absolutely was not smooth sailing at all. Right? Moshe Rabbeinu at one point he forgot what he did with some of the silver, and then he remembered, oh yes, I used it for the hooks. And there were people who suspected Moshe for pocketing some of the funds. Like, Moshe Rabbeinu, we gave a certain amount of silver, that didn't cost that much, where's the rest of the money? And he had to provide a full accountability for everything. Give them details of what was received, how it was spent. Nothing's changed. How could the rabbi get such a fancy car? And, have you seen his new kitchen and the fancy wedding he made for his daughter? Right? Moshe Rabbeinu was subjected to that from the children of Israel. And there were other problems as well. When it came to the day of the consecration of the Mishkan, which is only in 2 days' time, Rosh Chodesh Nisan, they couldn't lift up the beams. They tried. Eventually, there was a miracle that they lifted up. There was other issues that Moshe Rabbeinu sometimes forgot how to do some of the stuff that God had commanded him, that God had to actually show him what to do. Yet the Torah doesn't give us any of these details. According to the Torah's account, it was all smooth running, all plain sailing, everything was wonderful and marvelous. Seems to be some kind of cover-up going on here, right? And it's not the only time. The same thing with the Parshas Bereshit, right? The creation of the world, right? And each day, it's either God created this, God created that, and God saw that it was good. Vayakel, Yom Sheni, Yom Shlishi, etc. It was all good. But again, the Medrash says absolutely it wasn't all good. There was a massive dispute between the attribute of truth and the attribute of mercy about which one should have more power. The higher waters wouldn't separate from the lower waters. There's fascinating midrashim going on here. Yet the Torah's account, Vayar Hashem kol asher asa vayehi toiv ma'od, it was all good. Again, is the Torah covering something up here? And it's not the only time. In that as well, with the building of the first temple by King Solomon, it doesn't tell us any of the problems, it just tells us it was amazing. He built this magnificent building, the temple, God's presence was going to rest there. But there were loads of problems. They hit an underground spring which threatened to flood the world. The doors of the Holy of Holies wouldn't open. Many, many problems which the Medrash reveals to us, yet the Torah doesn't. So I've got two questions. First of all, why does the Torah not tell us? Why is it covering up? And second of all, if the Torah is trying to cover it up and hide these details, why does the Medrash spill the beans? Why does it tell us all the problems? They don't need to know all these problems. Or do we? So this is what I think, and I've heard this message from Rabbi Jacobson. A fascinating, really inspirational message. If we look at what's really happening here, right, God is metaphysical, right, he doesn't live, but he's in the celestial abode, right, he's not physical, yet we have the power, our ancestors had the power to bring the godly presence into the physical world. Now that is massive. Likewise with the creation of the world. There was nothingness, and God created this beautiful world for us to look after, and to live in, and to enjoy life, and to serve Hashem, and do the mitzvahs. That is massive. And in the third example with King Solomon, he built this temple in Jerusalem on Temple Mount. That is huge. And if we look at what was achieved here, that is unbelievable. Yes, there were problems, but what the message that the Torah is giving us here is that, yes, there can be problems. That the problems that you have in achieving something, that doesn't define what that thing you've achieved is. And this is a really powerful message, so much so that the Medrash feels it important to actually tell us what actually happened. Because in our lives, we all have problems. We'll have, as I say, we'll have our sorrows in our lives. Right? No one's life is hunky-dory all the time. And you know what? It's not even supposed to be. We all have our problems. We've got to go to the dentist, we've got to pay bills, and we have more serious things, our physical health, our mental health, we've got things to look after, we've got parents evening for the kids, right? We've got lots of stuff going on in our lives, which quite frankly we could do without. But this is the message. What happens to us does not define us. Lots of things happen to us. But if we look at the bigger picture, yes, there were problems when the temple was built. Yes, there were problems when the world was created. Yes, there were problems when the tabernacle, the Mishkan was built and Moshe Rabbeinu had his trouble from his community. But if we look at the picture at the end, to define what happened, it's massive. And this is why the Torah doesn't give us the detail. The Torah is giving us a hidden message here. That we need to look at the bigger picture. Look at what we've achieved. Right, look at our lives. And I'm talking to you personally. Look, if you've got this far in the video, then yes, I'm talking to you personally. Right? You've had trouble in your life. You've had stuff that you really, really don't need and don't want. So has everybody else. But you are a beautiful Neshama. You have achieved so much. And you will still go on to achieve so much. And there will be further hurdles along the way. But look at what you've achieved. Look at what you've become. Look at who you are. And who you are is not defined by the things that have happened to you in your life. We're great people. We've achieved so much, we have achieved so much, be proud of that, and don't let us be bogged down by all the little bits and bobs in life that we don't want. I wish you all good Shabbos, thank you for joining, and good Chodesh for this one.